Hi, gals. Okay, so we're going to look at student essay 5. This one is the one that is really strong. It's well written. The kid takes some definite, definite risk in their writing, which is what pushes the writing style to a 9. Okay, so let's look at their broad opener from the get-go. I can immediately see they've got dashes. Y'all know I love a dash. Makes me happy. From a young age, most people are taught by parents or guardians that telling the truth is the right thing to do. So we're starting with this emotional connection that anybody and everybody can identify with to bring them into the topic of the piece. Well, how do I see the topic of the piece? The part that the truth, telling the truth, that connects to the overall topic that Luce is going to address. Yet as we grow older, the sense of honesty in humans seems to fade. Now notice what he's doing right up here. He's bringing in the conflict that journalists deal with. They start with telling the truth, but that sense of honesty, remember, seems to fade for those sensationalist stories. So he's very subtly connecting it back to the whole issue that Luce is addressing, which is higher level for sure. Notice how he's referencing that previous sentence, that's creating that flow in his writing. This is especially apparent in the media. Look at him directly bringing in and narrowing down to journalists. Stories are fabricated. Look at that vocabulary. Beautiful. Stories are fabricated to draw in an audience, to read and spend their hard-earned money to see lies. Look at that. Hard-earned money, evoking pathos in his writing as well. So this is great. If I'm being nitpicky, yes, it's filled with passive voice. It really is. Stories are fabricated to draw in an audience, to read and spend their hard-earned money to see lies. But there are people who address this issue. Look at him, narrowing down so that he can finally introduce Claire Booth Luce. Who addresses this issue? Well, we're about to see Claire Booth Luce do it, remember? At the 1960 Women's National Press Club, journalist Claire Booth Luce spoke to a crowd of journalists on the topic of honesty within the media. So look at that. Honesty within the media. He is basically rephrasing the purpose of her entire speech, but in his own words. There's no regurgitation of the prompt. There's no word for word use from the introduction. It's him truly rewording it in his own way. Luce, this is our thesis statement right here. Luce utilizes a humorous tone, okay, so that's her first strategy, to draw them into her speech. That's the strategy and the purpose of it. And then appeals to the struggle these women go to in order to honestly portray the truth through their stories. Okay, that's her second strategy, and he even names a more specific audience. And she utilizes these strategies so that these women's ears would open up and they would be receptive of her constructive criticism. Look at that tone word right there, constructive criticism. It definitely conveys the piece. I don't like this part right here. It's not terrible. It's just kind of awkward. It's a little wordy. Women's ears would open up. I do understand what he's trying to say. It's just the phrasing is a little awkward. I think because it's not literal. We're not literally asking for their ears to magically open up. We're asking for them to be more considerate and receptive. So you could almost have deleted that. I think he's trying to evoke imagery. The problem is that imagery is not literal. We literally don't want their ears to open. They already are open. We all have open ears. So that would be the only part that I would get rid of. All the rest of this is beautiful though. And for what overall purpose? For this overall purpose, so that they would be receptive of our constructive criticism. So he goes through the strategies that he's going to analyze and also has the purpose for that. This is great. Awesome, awesome intro, awesome thesis, and great narrowing down to that thesis. And I'm surprised at how much he analyzed considering how well developed that introduction is. That introduction I would assume, would have taken time. Irony is smeared upon the entire situation, okay? Let me show you how to fix passive voice. So passive voice is very easy to fix. It's just one of those things we're so used to. Instead, who is doing the smearing? Well, Luce is doing the smearing. So you make Luce the subject. So it should be Luce. Let me fix this. Luce smears irony upon the entire situation. That's the way it should be written, but it's not. Irony is smeared. So let's change it back to the way he wrote it. Irony is smeared upon the entire situation Luce is stuck in. Look at that column right there. Why? Because it's introducing the situation that Luce is stuck in. It's a great connection. A journalist herself was asked to stand on a stage to insult and criticize the people who asked her to be there. Absolutely. Definitely explains this strategy of the irony from the get-go. Luce does not take long to address this irony, being the person who is invited to throw rocks at them. Perfect integration, grammatically flows with his sentence. It's perfect. So the evidence is integrated and he's only put the most important part. The irony is that she was invited to throw rocks at them, okay? She utilizes this irony for what effect? To lighten the mood in the room. Great. Effect is directly mentioned. Guys, if you have this written down for you, just somewhere, strategy, check. Evidence, check. Effect, check. Purpose, in order to open the audience's ears to her words, check. That's it. That's all you have to do. And now guess what? You're ready to move on to the next piece of evidence. That's your goal. This student has listened to exactly what I've said to do, and they've done it in exactly that order. They've given you the device, irony. They've given you the evidence of the irony. Then they explain the effect of that irony. Then they explain the purpose of that irony. It's great. It's wonderful. Let's keep going. Her emphasis that you asked me to tell you what's wrong with you adds another layer to the irony of the whole situation. Again, notice the next piece of evidence is again connected back to this. Definitely an ironic situation. Evidence again is integrated. The media requested her presence to criticize them. Okay, so now he's just elaborating and explaining a little bit more. And she uses this fact to engage her peers to her speech. So she's engaging her peers. This is her purpose. This is her goal. The last of her lighthearted remarks. Again, I loved this part right here. When you can show me the tone on the device, you should. What are we looking at? We're looking at her remarks. What is the tone of them? They're lighthearted. They're joking. The last of her lighthearted remarks was an allusion. Look at that. I see multiple devices listed now. Not just irony, but now we've got allusions too. The last of her lighthearted remarks was an allusion to the delicate art of giving an audience hell, which she believes is always best left to the Billy Grahams and Bishop Sheens. Notice how he has paraphrased all of that evidence and only quoted the most important parts. Perfect integration of evidence. Is this lighthearted? Is this an illusion? This is lighthearted and it's an illusion, so it definitely matches with the strategy that he's claiming. Her audience keys into the humor she presents. Okay, so he's showing specifically the audience's reaction. That's intended effect. And notice the unique verb choice. I don't usually see keys being used as a verb, but it's used correctly. Her audience keys into the humor she presents, making their minds more susceptible to the blows she will inflict on their honesty. Making their minds more susceptible. That's the purpose. So we get the effect right here and then the purpose right after. That's what makes this paragraph so great, y'all. There's 3 pieces of evidence. After each piece of evidence, I've got effect and then I've got purpose. I don't remember seeing the effect for this one, but I see the effect and the purpose for the other 2 as well. And the effect, or wait, the purpose is listed for this one. It's a beautiful paragraph, truly. If this was all he gave me, well, I mean, the whole piece wouldn't have been covered, but it would definitely have been covered well, the one little section that he gave me. It's great. It's wonderful. All right, let's read the next body paragraph. Notice he's only got an introduction, 2 body paragraphs, the way we talked about setting it up, and a very short conclusion. But it's so strong. More pieces of evidence equal more solidification of your strategy. He's addressing the irony here, and so he gives me multiple pieces of humor and irony that she uses. It just shows how strong the analysis is. Okay, next paragraph. Luce is a journalist herself. She is not an outsider speaking about experiences she has never had. Okay, so this kid is making their own commentary about Luce's unique situation. This is him applying context to Luce. This is great. Just the opposite occurs as she has experienced the struggle of illuminating candor in print. She shifts from her humorous tone. Notice how he's showing the tonal shift. That's great. She shifts from her humorous tone to address the audience on a serious level, asking a question they all know the answer to. What is good journalism about? Okay, great. This is a unique way to set up a quote. It's not integrated. It is merely introduced, but it's a unique way to introduce it with that colon right there. She desires for the media to look within itself for their purpose. Okay, so that's the effect that Luce is trying to create right here. The desire for the media to look within itself for their purpose and what they strive for. Good journalism sheds light on the truth. Look at that short sentence structure to balance this heavy writing up here. Appealing to their struggle, that's what she's doing. That's her strategy that she's using. She's appealing to their struggle. Luce creates a connection with her audience. Look at that. Again, the effect that she's trying to create on the audience, creating a connection with them. What is good journalism about? Remember, she is one of them, which is what he stated up here. Luce creates a connection with her audience, and what's the purpose of that? To open their minds to what she has to say. She realizes that journalism is the pursuit and effort to state the truth. And no audience knows better than an audience of journalists that the pursuit of truth is the most delicate, hazardous, exacting, and inexact of tasks. These reflections are inspirational to the room. Look at that, immediately showing that tonal transition right there. It's wonderful. This is great. These reflections are inspirational to the room. Absolutely they are. That is the effect of this little moment right here. It is supposed to be inspirational. And the fact that he calls them reflections is so precise. These reflections are inspirational to the room and allow her for more free reign with her words in the whole of her speech. What does that mean? Free reign. That's really addressing the fact that she's being inspirational. Why? Because she's about to be a little bit more insulting to them. You know, butter him up before you put him down. She recognizes that while there is much wrong that is wrong with the American press. So he's got like a little typing error right there. We can forgive that. Definitely forgive that when you've only gotten 45 minutes to write it. She recognizes that while there is much that is wrong with the American press, there is much that is right, and that they have a natural instinct to tell the truth. She concludes her introduction with words of hope and inspiration that the U.S. Daily Press, okay, so this one is actually done incorrectly. You need to have that colon right there, or even a dash right there, although I think that would be kind of awkward. I think you need the colon. This is basically an introduction to a quote, the same way he's done right here. So the way that it's done, it's just kind of thrown into the sentence without that colon. So that needs to be fixed. But again, it's a small error, and he only does it once. She concludes her introductions with words of hope and inspiration that the U.S. Daily Press is just far away the best press in the world, directly flattering her audience, so that's the effect, before she criticizes them more. Why? To set them up for her criticism. There's your purpose. Luce uses her inspiration to allow her audience to listen. Again, he's explaining the purpose of this goal. She uses that inspirational tone to allow her audience to listen, to not become angry with her, but understand that her criticism comes from experience, not blind slander. And that's the key that kind of wraps back up to the opening. Luce is a journalist herself. She's criticizing them, but because she is one of them, she knows their flaws. She knows what they do that is wrong, because who knows your own flaws better than yourself? This is a really circular paragraph. I love it. Notice again, we've got multiple pieces of evidence. It's not just two. The student has gone above and beyond, and they've added more. That's what is the difference between an okay essay and an essay that is an 8 and a 9. A 9 does more than it has to. They don't just check, they check all the boxes. They hit the device. They hit the device, the irony that I'm looking for. Then they provide me the evidence of the device. But then they provide me more evidence of the device. Oh, wait, and then they provide me more evidence. They do more than what they have to do. Oh, wait, and then after the piece of evidence, they give me the effect. to lighten the mood. And for what purpose? To open the audience. Every single time, the effect and the purpose is hit. Effect and the purpose is hit. It's beautiful. Let's read the conclusion. In order to make her audience receptive to her coming criticism, again, that's her overall purpose. Luce utilizes humor and inspires her audience to do the right thing in their writing. Be honest. I love those short, little, concise, emotional punches of pathos right there. This is the strategy, but notice how it's not word for word. It doesn't sound like anything word for word from up here. Luce utilizes humor, her humorous tone. Notice how he's just varied it up just ever so slightly so we can see it. Yet all people can learn from this speech. Honesty is the root of all good relationships, and dishonesty uproots any progress ingrained in trust. That's what I was talking about. Let's try to create some type of broadening out to all people, to all, so that everybody is now engaged with your ending, and then create this inspirational little ending here. All people can learn from this speech. Honesty is the root of all good relationships, and dishonesty uproots any progress ingrained in trust. The vocabulary is beautiful. This writing is strong. It's a great example of what you want to shoot for. There's a couple of errors here and there. Overall, my largest criticism is the passive voice, but everything else is so strong you kind of ignore the fact that it's written in passive voice. So this is great. It's hashtag goals. Hashtag.